The glory of Tajudeen Baba. I am with you. Healing the sick and such other miracles are common enough even among saints of a lesser order, and the skeptic's mind is not much touched by the replacement of medicine with faith as a means of cure. Other worldly blessings might pass for happy coincidences. There is a realm of miracles which defies all comprehension and needs the utmost disbelief, verging on dogma and superstition to brush them aside heedlessly. Baba Tajuddin revelled in them, and thereby the world knew that he is one of the greatest saints. The most striking of these is Huzur Tajuddin's presence in more than one place at the same time and in diverse physical forms. Even while he sat at Sakardara or Waki, in another form, he would go to someone's house or office and help them out of a difficulty or do their office work for them. Once, this mysterious double form went as a lawyer to argue his case at the court, and on another occasion, he even sat as a judge in a court. This type of miracle is indeed found in the accounts of great saints like Sri Sai Baba of Shirdi. Such cases are recorded by Sri Paramahamsa Yogananda in his autobiography of a yogi. Similar occurrences have been reported in the lives of saints in Israel and Arabia too. There are strange instances when the saint concerned often traveled thousands of miles in the wink of an eye and even took his devotees with him. Sri Satya Sai Baba of Puttaparthi has many such miracles to his credit. Hindu scriptures, and in fact all of world scriptures, speak of such miracles as the grace of God that he mercifully bestows on the seekers as a reward for his piety, humility, and zeal to serve the suffering people materially and spiritually. Nagina is a town in UP where a Qaji by name Ahmad Ali Shah lived. He worked as a Kuriki officer, that is, he looked after the auctioning of insolvents' property. His pay was low and he compensated it by accepting bribes freely. When he was transferred from that place, he found that in the accounts there was a deficit of rupees 24 and he was charged with misappropriation of money. He spent thousands of rupees in bribing superiors to escape punishment, but it was all in vain. In desperation, he started seeking the divine intervention of sadhus and fakirs through their blessings. When he almost grew desperate even in this endeavor, someone suggested to him to seek the protection of Hazrat Tajuddin Baba. So he promptly arrived in Nagapur and went to the saint. Immediately on seeing him, Tajuddin Huzur said, "Stay." Accordingly, he stayed in Nagpur for 4 days, and on the 5th day he again ordered, "Stay." After some more days, Huzur Tajuddin Baba gave him permission to go home, saying, "I am with you." Ahmad Ali Shah returned home full of apprehension and knocked his door. To his utter surprise, when the door was opened for him, no one in the house expressed any curiosity regarding his trips or absence from home for so many days. When he asked his wife to pay for the coachman, she picked up a quarrel with him and asked him whether he had brought the earrings for her, which he had been promising her every day and did so even the day before. The Qaji was amazed at her remark. He told her that he was just then returning home after nearly 1 year of wandering from fakir to fakir. But none in the house believed his words, for they saw him every day going out in the morning and returning in the evening. They saw him repeating the Lord's name himself incessantly through the nights. The Qaji brushed aside everything they said as sheer nonsense. Then they even told him that the case of misappropriation was decided in his favor and that he even drew his pay for the period. The Qaji could not understand anything. He went to his office, but there too he was surprised to see that no one in the office expressed any curiosity about his long absence from his seat. When he looked into the office register, there was his daily signature. The same day, his superior officer sent for him and expressed his sympathy and regrets for the worry the case had caused him. But he did not say a word about Ahmad Ali's long absence from the office. Then he remembered the parting message of Tajudeen Sarkar, "I am with you." He realized that, assuming his form, Huzur Tajudeen had been mysteriously attending to the court affairs and the office all through last year. Ahmad Ali was overwhelmed with gratitude and wanted to express the same personally to the great fakir and left for Nagpur. He had to change trains at Delhi. There he was met by a man and a dog who walked by his side. The ticket collector asked the Kaji if their tickets too. For the stranger said that he and his dog were the companions of the Kaji and that he had their tickets with him. The Kaji was exasperated and protested that he is not answerable to them and they were not his companions. When he came out of the station, he could not see the dog and the man anywhere. He felt relieved of the nuisance. Later, he reached Nagpur and approached Huzur Tajudeen to touch his feet in homage. On seeing him, Baba laughed loudly and said, "Did I not tell you that I am with you? But at the Delhi railway station, you disowned me and broke off from my company." The Kaji was again shocked to learn that the man with the dog whom he encountered at the Delhi railway station was Tajudeen Baba himself and that he had stupidly disowned him. He shed tears and with folded hands begged to be pardoned. Tajudeen Sarkar was only too ready to pardon him and comforted him with a smile and blessing. Once a Madrasi Brahmin came to Sakardara for Baba's darshan after obtaining leave from the office for 4 days. He spent the 4 days blissfully in the service of the great saint and on the last day sought his leave to return to his headquarters. But the Baba did not grant him permission to leave Sakardara. 1 week passed. The Brahmin was worried about his office and so he once again sought Huzur Baba's permission, but the latter had kept quiet. This time, however, the visitors brushed off all thought of seeking his leave and stayed on in the service of this supreme Lord of all bosses for 1 month, when he was granted permission to go home. Though at the time of his homeward journey he was calm and unperturbed, on the way he started brooding over the awkwardness that he would have to encounter on facing his office to explain his long absence from duty without leave. However, when he arrived at his home, neither his wife nor his children referred to his long absence. Even at the office, no one expressed any surprise at it. As usual, in the evening, the peon came to his seat and said, "The officer wants you to send him yesterday's files." Then the Brahmin understood that it was all a miracle of Tajudeen Baba and that none of them knew of his absence, that Baba Tajudeen himself acted as his substitute both at home and in the office all the time. Then he divulged the whole thing to his colleagues and the officers, who were all utterly amazed at the miracle. An old Muslim gentleman by name Jan Shah was wandering in the Afghanistan hills in search of light. In course of his wanderings, he once went on a pilgrimage to Mecca. There he met a saint in green robes and marveled at the spiritual radiance of his face and prostrated before him. The saint said in a foreign accent, "Not here. Come to the Waki near Nagpur, which is famous for santras, a variety of oranges grown around Nagpur. There you will know everything." Before Jan Shah could ask him what and where Waki was, the saint vanished. Jan Shah came to Nagpur and was inquiring about Waki. His foreign accent made it impossible for any native to follow his pronunciation, and so he was told that there was no such place thereabout. When Jan Shah stood there perplexed, Mr. Ahmad Khan, a devotee of Tajudeen Baba, came there and directed him to the great saint. When Jan Shah arrived at Waki, he recognized Tajudeen Sarkar at the very first sight, for he was indeed the saint that had directed him to go there, at the mountains of Afghanistan. Jan Shah became his disciple and stayed away in the service of Baba for the rest of his life. He moved along with the latter to Sakardara. Whenever Tajuddin Sarkar was in an ecstatic mood, abusing someone vehemently, Jan Shah used to ask, Baba, why do you abuse him? Baba used to reply very lovingly, No, I am not abusing him. I am blessing him. The way Baba drew the old man from Afghanistan is indeed marvelous. Tajuddin the Master. Hold fast. You need to fear nothing either here or hereafter. Saints are direct witnesses to the glory of Godhead and the rewards of life lived in the pure spirit of the holy texts. They are a necessary phenomenon because, as though owing to some inherent twist in man's nature, mankind had insisted on and persisted in misinterpreting even the simplest of holy teachings and perverting them in practice. Any and every great religion preaches total and absolute dedication and love to God and His creatures and a pious and truthful life as the inevitable means of realizing the truth of Godhead. But there is hardly any religion which did not degenerate into an insincere adherence to the external show of it, hatred for fellow creatures, and impious life of untruth. It is to correct this that saints are in constant need to appear amidst us to salvage as many people as possible to the proper path. Religion lives and rests on the shoulders of saints. Tajuddin Sarkar is one of the foremost saints of Islam. He proved himself a pillar of piety, which he declared on one occasion that he will make 125,000 saints before leaving the world. We know that saints do not die but are immortal, and even their tombs are potent spiritual forces capable of inspiring and guiding true seekers. This statement implies that till a 125,000 of his devotees become potent saints, his tomb will retain its power. To make a saint of a man is no joke. Merely inspiring faith through general oral preaching might make people believing, but to make them wholeheartedly dedicate themselves to the spiritual quest against all bondages needs the constant care of a perfect saint. Tajuddin Sarkar was one such, and it is interesting to note how well he rendered this duty to his disciples and thereby to the society at large. One Abdul Aziz was in charge of a spiritual guide. Many peers tried to make him a disciple of him, but he did not easily submit to them. One day he saw a saint in his dream and described him to one of his friends. The latter told him that the description agreed with Hazrat Tajuddin Baba of Nagapur and recounted the miracles that took place at the lunatic asylum and at Sakardara. Then Abdul Aziz yearned to meet Tajuddin Baba and went to Waki in 1908. When Aziz arrived, Tajuddin Sarkar was sitting under a tree. On seeing Aziz, Tajuddin Sarkar picked up a blade of grass from the ground and inscribed with it the full name of Aziz on his own lap and smiled at him. Aziz wondered how the fakir knew his name. This incident developed spontaneous faith in him. He stayed for days at Waki and he understood that by inscribing his name on his lap, Tajuddin Sarkar accepted him as his spiritual child. That is, he agreed to be his spiritual guide or nurse. As days passed, his faith in the Baba grew intense. Tajuddin, in moments of spiritual exaltation or ecstasy, exhibited uncontrollable anger and even beat people. Devotees knew that the beating was really a form of blessing. On such occasion, the devotees took one pious lady, Mariambi Amma Sahib, before him, for on seeing her, he used to calm down. Aziz was the witness of one such of Huzur Tajuddin Baba's moods. Tajuddin Sarkar was very angry and his face was aglow with a mysterious radiance. He did not calm down even though the pious lady was brought before him, and in fact, started beating her too. Also, a few moments he grew calm, went to Aziz and taking the latter's hands in his, recited the verse, Whoever comes and becomes your disciple becomes a disciple of God himself. God's hand will ever be on such a disciple's hand. The hand of God will be there in the days to see. Even the one who takes Tabayat, Diksha or initiation today is your disciple. The hand of this Sheikh being yours is also benign. Thus the great saint accepted Aziz as his disciple and renamed him Naziruddin. Nasiruddin stayed for a long time in the presence of Tajudeen. Later he also became famous as a saint. How literally true and complete is Baba Sahib's teaching. One morning Huzur Tajudeen was sitting at the main gate at Sakardara. He wore a long overall at that time. One Karim Baba went to him at about 5 p.m. and prostrated before him. Tajudeen asked him, How do I look now? Karim said, You shine bright in the glory of God. Then Tajudeen Sarkar stripped himself completely naked and repeated the same question. Karim answered, You shine in the majesty of God. Tajudeen then kept the hand leaves of his garment in Karim's hand and said, Hold fast. You need fear nothing either here or hereafter. So saying, he wound the rest of the shirt around Karim's head. Then he put some sweetmeat in his hand and said, This is the gift of marriage. Thus Tajudeen Baba gave Karim a unique place among his disciples. Stranger still is the manner in which Tajudeen Baba blessed Fateh Muhammad Shah with sainthood. The latter came from Afghanistan and lived in a village mosque at Darwa in Yotmal district. He used to be immersed in meditation day and night, and he used to be in a mystic trance. It was said that Tajudeen Baba had sent him there. Earlier, he attended on Baba Tajudeen at the lunatic asylum. At that time, Tajudeen Baba once said regarding that cell in the asylum, This place will never be vacant. His words came literally true, for when he left the asylum, he kept Fateh Shah there in his place and later too became a famous saint. After Tajudeen Baba left this world, Raja Raghoji Rao tried to get Fateh Shah also released from the asylum and prayed him to go over to Sakardara in the place of Baba Tajudeen. Fateh Shah replied, That place should be approached on one's head. Do you wish to take me there so soon? Superficially, the statement means that Tajudeen's place is so exalted that it amounts to blasphemy if one walks thither on his legs. Fateh Shah continued to live in the asylum till the end, and after his demise, his body was brought to Tajudeen Baba's place, Tajabad. Perhaps Fateh Shah's words also signified this going of his to Tajabad, that is carried on the heads of his followers after death. He might also have meant that it is not possible for others to attain the exalted spiritual state of Tajudeen Baba before the falling off of one's body. Once Hazrat Hizamuddin wished that Tajudeen should take him to his disciple even while he was sitting at his own home. That night he saw Sarkar Tajudeen Baba in his dream. The latter was seated near a tank of water and was washing his feet as Muslims do before performing namaz. The water in which he dipped his leg was illuminating every spot on which it fell. Next morning, Hizamuddin contemplated on the significance of his dream and concluded that Baba Tajudeen had accepted him as his disciple. However, later in the day he approached the Baba and verbally expressed his wish. Immediately Tajudeen Baba replied, The meeting took place last night. Is it not enough? Hizamuddin was surprised and overjoyed at his words. This time he made a silent petition. Now that you have accepted me as your disciple, give me a sign of it. Immediately Tajudeen Baba turned to him and said, Evidence? That will be given by Khwaja Hasan Nizami. Hazrat Nizami was a famous saint of Delhi, the pontiff of the seat of Khwaja Nizamuddin Chishti, a medieval Sufi saint. Hisamuddin was surprised to note that Tajudeen Baba was spiritually connected with Saint Nizami. But the next moment he was assailed by a doubt. Is Nizami, to whom Baba Tajudeen is directing me, equally a perfect saint? So he immediately thought of testing him. He wrote a letter to Delhi in a very ambiguous tone. I am ordered to become your disciple. Let me know when I should come to you. He did not sign it, nor did he mention his address therein. Yet, after some days, he received a reply from Hazrat Nizami, which was follows. Hisamuddin, you come here in accordance with the order of Baba Tajudeen. Hazrat Nizamuddin's monthly festival falls on 17th of every month. Come and take the vow on that day. This letter confirmed the omniscience of Nizami and also his close alliance with Baba Tajudeen. He went to Delhi. When he entered the dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin, the first Nizami, the then pontiff of the shrine called him by his name without being introduced to him by anybody and said, Hisamuddin, have you come? Take the vow tomorrow morning. The next day he became the disciple of Nizami. One of the disciples of Huzur Baba who blossomed into a famous saint is Hazrat Khadar Wali Baba of Vijayanagaram, Andhra Pradesh. His pious parents descended of a royal family of Trichinapalli and they settled at Vijayanagaram. His paternal uncle is said to have lived as fakir and endowed his miraculous powers at Vishakhapatnam. Khader Shah was born in 1900 and he seemed to be under divine protection since his infancy. He was mysteriously saved from ferocious cobra by a wild mongoose, and the house in which he was left sleeping escaped singularly from a fire that burnt down all the neighboring huts. Everyone who was cruel to the boy suffered almost immediate retribution. As a boy, he was charmed by the tales of saints and godmen belonging to all religions. As a pupil of high school, he realized the futility of a mere breadwinning education, and he was convinced that spiritual perfection is the genuine object of life. He grew indifferent to play, school books, kinfolk, and even to the comforts of his body. He spent most of the time pondering over the way of attaining spiritual perfection. His father, being of a religious bent, knew the stuff of which his boy was made and never interfered with him. A few years later, when a flourishing business firm tried to lure the boy with a tempting offer of a job, his father reminded him that he was destined for a different role in life. Later, one day, he told Khader Shah to offer 5 copper coins to 5 fakirs and to fulfill the vow he made to Baba Tajudeen and concluded, This evening I shall go away. Take good care of yourself. That evening, the pious old man passed away quite peacefully. Now, Khader Shah's mind was pining to contact a perfect saint that could show him the way to inner perfection and was perplexed by the countless hypocrites that pretend to be masters of spiritual knowledge in the society. At that time, a devotee of Baba Tajudeen, one Hazrat Baba, visited Vijayanagaram to spread his master's message of divine love in that area. Khadar Baba heard his discourse and shortly after he visited Nagapur. At first sight of the great saint, Khadar wondered how a mad, naked fakir like Tajudeen Baba, who heaped foulest abuse on his visitors, could be a master of spiritual wisdom. Tajudeen Baba went off driving his horse-drawn coach, heaping abuse on the crowds of devotees that ran after it. Khader Shah stayed behind to answer nature's call and to finish his daily routine. When he was walking towards a secluded spot, Tajudeen Baba mysteriously appeared before him and demanded, What is your doubt? Why do you falter like this? There is no scope for any doubts, and vanished mysteriously before he could pull himself together sufficiently. Next day, Khadar Baba, Hazrat Baba, and other disciples were seated around Baba Tajudeen. The latter, suddenly turning to Hazrat Baba, commanded him, Lay a few stitches to that soft robe. Hazrat Baba at once went out to obey the order. Khadar Baba followed him and said, Baba's order is cryptic. He means that a wealthy man, soft as the robe, is soon to arrive and that you have to receive him and say a few words of wisdom to him. Hazrat Baba could not understand how the Baba's words could ever be interpreted in that manner. But soon a wealthy man arrived in his car with precious gifts in silver plates. When Hazrat Baba received them and took him to Huzur Baba, the latter said to the disciple, "Can't you understand unless the visitor from Vijayanagaram, that is Khadar Shah, explains it?" Among Huzur Baba's disciples was one Jabalpur Baba. He was an embodiment of dispassion right from his infancy. One day, he was expounding religious wisdom to a group of devout visitors. When his eyes fell on a young Khadar who stood in a corner, he went into a sudden ecstasy and prostrated before the young man. He muttered, "Show me your power, Holy One." Young Khadar was frightened at the crazy gesture and quietly left the scene. Later, when the disciples approached Huzur Baba, he turned to Jabalpur Baba and said, "Do you wish to see my power? Do you suspect my mystic powers?" Everyone realized that the great saint identified himself with young Khadar Shah. On other occasion, Hazrat Baba ordered Khadar Shah to cut wood for fuel, and the latter obeyed. But his hands were sore with that unwanted labor. When Hazrat Baba met Huzur Sahib, the latter burst off, "You rascal, see how my hands are sore. Do you order me to cut wood?" Strange it may seem, but the young Khadar did not speak a word to the master even after 3 days of his stay in Nagapur. Early in the morning on the fourth day, Khadar dreamt that he saw two big chests and their keys being handed to him. He opened the chests and found one of them to be full and the other half full of sacred books. Soon, Khadar woke up and found Hazrat Tajudeen Baba standing by his side. An old woman who was cleaning the place also saw the Baba and called out to the other disciples who were still asleep. But Huzur Baba at once disappeared. Later, Khadar Baba innocently recounted his strange experience to fellow disciple Hazrat Baba. When he later approached Huzur Baba, the latter said, "Child, you should never disclose such to others. However, do not fear," and blessed him with a smile. Soon Khadar Shah returned to Vijayanagaram and devoted himself to severe spiritual exercises, and he soon became famous as a holy saint. Countless people flocked to him for spiritual and material succor, and even today, long after he left off his physical form, devotees continue to experience his powerful blessing. Baba Khadar Wali is one of the lights that the Supreme Saint Baba Tajudeen had gifted to mankind. And the worthy disciple, in his own turn, has disciples of renown in several parts of the country.